And as I was taking him out of the building, he actually poured tar down all the piping, and it went through the whole place. And by the time I got him out of the place, it probably cost me probably $25,000.
Hey investors, Bradley here from Watson Estates, and you're listening to the largest, fastest growing podcast for Toronto real estate on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. If you're not already following our show, please do, as we continue to follow the market. As a broker and investor myself, I want to know where there are opportunities, and part of that is making sure I'm up to date on the latest systems and tools available to myself as I'm renting out properties. So today I'm so thankful to have Chad Guziewicz on the show from Rentify. He's the co-founder of Rentify, having come from the auto industry, creating a company called Tire Wizard. They applied the same technology and similar skill set to the real estate industry to really, in my opinion, bring the rental market up to par with where it should be, and to really lead the charge as we transition from a really basic review of tenants in the screening process to bringing what I believe is going to be a standard in our market. I think they're doing some serious things. You're going to learn maybe some of the challenges that a lot of landlords have had, and how a system like Rentify could be exactly what you're looking for to get that A+ tenant in your place. If you could, please subscribe, hit that like button. If you have any questions for Chad, you can leave those in the comments below. Enjoying the show. Hi, Chad. Thank you for joining us on the show. How you doing?
Yes, thank you for having me, and I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for coming and speaking and introducing us to what I believe is a very new concept for a lot of landlords. We got a lot of people following our channel, up to date with the market, but they get stuck at the point of dealing and working with tenants, especially with COVID. So I'm really excited to have you with us today.
Yes, I'm excited to be on your show and looking forward to sharing our story with you.
Beautiful. So let's get to know Chad a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into working as a landlord and creating a software that can support them?
Perfect. Yeah, I'd love to share that. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I actually had a building a number of years ago, and at the same time, I started another software company called Tire Wizard. And at that same time, I was actually a landlord and going through the process of, and it was like a 10-plex, and I actually put people in and out, and I started learning the challenges of being a small landlord and doing that kind of information. And what happened was me and my partner a few years ago started talking about, because we controlled the car dealer industry, and we said, what is another industry that we could disrupt? And I said, let's do the landlord world, because it's a pain. It is a lot of work. There's a lot of information that has to be validated. So yeah, that was a big thing. And we started exploring this concept of a bank check. And I started giving my horror stories to my partner of what it was like being in that business.
Right. Yeah, we're going to get into discussing bank checks, because I love that term, and we're going to discuss what that looks like and what you guys are doing. But maybe share one of the horror stories you've experienced, one of these things that set you off.
So what happened was when I initially bought the building, there was a guy in there, and it was part of the things to get him out of the building. And actually, as I actually learned the process of kicking somebody out of the building, and the process, and I'm in Ontario, so it takes a long time. As everybody knows, I was an Ontario landlord. And as I was taking him out of the building, he actually poured tar down all the piping, and it went through the whole place. And by the time I got him out of the place, it probably cost me probably $25,000 in all the repairs and all this kind of stuff. And he was actually abusing his wife, which wasn't very good. He was the nightmare scenario you could have. And after that, I was like, man, this business is crazy.
Hey, but look where it took you, right? It got you inspired to do something different. But
yes.
So that was that's an extreme scenario. I love extreme scenarios because they set the tone. But what are some other challenges for some of your clients that you've seen out there? Some common that pop up time and time again.
Yeah, one of the most challenging things is, like, really when I was doing it, really what I found the real problem was is how do you take a bunch of information that a tenant gives to you, and how do you validate all of it? Like, how do you make sure the payroll's correct? How do you make sure their information they give you, like their employment, their bank balance, what they're making is all correct. And I found that really challenging for a small guy that only had 10 units. I get it for the big guys that got all these systems in place. And I actually found that a couple people lied on their application and to me, and I just wanted a better way, a better system to tell me if it was true or not. Like, oh, did this person actually have pets and they actually moved into the place and they actually do have pets and all this kind of, how do you find a unique way of finding that isn't done today?
Right.
So those are some of the real problems I really see for when I was a landlord at the time.
Yeah. So it's really what I'm hearing. It sounds like it's a lot of ebb and flow, like things that go unnoticed. As a small landlord, there's not much recourse. I mean, especially in Ontario. And as a landlord myself, I know what you're saying. I think a lot of people resonate with that thinking, but you obviously have that tech background to do something about it. So, but before we go there, let's actually talk about, I think a lot of people do credit checks, right? Before we start talking about what you guys are doing, I'm curious, what is that? Because I know my experience with credit checks, but I'm wondering, is that not sufficient? Is a credit check not enough to get a true picture of someone? Where there may be holes or where is actually valuable? Like, I'm curious your reflection on that.
So credit checks there's nothing wrong with credit checks, but the challenge with a credit check is it's easy to rent to somebody that has a perfect credit score. But what happens when you have the people below the credit score? They don't have the perfect credit score, but really what you're trying to understand is this person a good tenant? Do they pay their bills? Are they going to be responsible? You're really looking for somebody who is financially responsible. Okay, they pay their bills, they'll pay their rent, they'll pay all their information, all the stuff that matters. So really that's what you're trying to understand, the difference. And that's kind of what we're trying to bring to the market, is a more detailed understanding of somebody's 12-month financial behavior than something they might have done in the past that doesn't matter. And a great opportunity, and I don't know if this is a great time to bring it up, but there's people on social services that are actually good tenants, but you'll never see that in a credit score. You would see that in their behavior, in their financial, in their bank accounts,
right? That
are just getting excluded out.
So I definitely see the side where you've got poor credit, but that doesn't, and to be honest with you, in my thinking is almost every credit that I've seen has been rough. I mean, for the most part, especially when you're dealing with larger units, or there's at least something there. There's a reason outside of affordability. There's a big reason out there for people to rent, but that doesn't tell the whole story. But then just because you have a high credit score doesn't mean that's a clean one either. I mean, for two reasons. One, maybe this is their opportunity. They're taking it as an opportunity during things like COVID and everything here. Or it's a fake document, which you kind of mentioned. I know as we're reporting on updates in our market updates, we talk a lot about recently there's been a huge surge, not only a surge in fake documents, but also a surge in people being okay with fake documents. People are saying, you know what? It's not a big deal. It's really not a big deal. So this is obviously a threat to landlords. And so we're seeing holes there.
And you know what? That was actually a great thing to bring up, because when we started this business, you know what the first thing we did is we looked up faking bank statements, and there's actually like 10 companies in the US that you can actually send it to and fake your bank statement. So you really want it from a secure place, so you know 100% that this is a legit document.
There we go. So we got landlords and tenants learning stuff today.
Yes.
Beautiful. And the other thing is CERB, right? Like we have people collecting CERB. That isn't reflected in that credit check. So I guess all of these things bring us to this concept of a bank check. I've never heard that term before. Where does that come from? The idea of a bank check?
What we thought about is that we believe that it's important that somebody actually does a check on people's bank to make sure I think today all landlords would admit that there's a missing link today. We feel like there's something missing, and we believe that the bank check is very important, because as you guys know as landlords today, that when you guys go out and buy your properties today, banks are checking your financial behavior before they sell you the property to make sure that you can afford it. You're buying into the right piece, the right property at the right rates. And, landlords should also be doing the same thing to tenants to make sure that financially they're viable to actually pay that rent, because it will be the most expensive thing coming out of their bank accounts. So we believe that that really needs to be added to a landlord's toolbox.
And I think as listeners are tuned in here, I think they're starting to recognize why I thought this would be a fantastic conversation, a great platform to share really what I think is bringing up the landlord tenant world to the same standard that we hold to buying and selling real estate. You know, we it's almost as someone who's helped clients find units, and as a landlord side I don't do too many rentals, but for those I have, there is a ton of paperwork that goes into putting those all together, but ultimately it's left with you just sitting back and kind of hoping you've got everything you need, not really know what you're looking at. So there's the same caliber of paperwork, but really not the same standard of review that you get in something like applying for a mortgage. I mean, they're not just lending out money, and we shouldn't just be lending out our house without properly doing our due diligence. So really excited about this. So is it your belief that we would have both a bank check and a credit check, or would it be in replace of a credit check?
At the end of the day, I never tell somebody what exactly to do, but I believe that a bank check should be part of the starting piece of all checks for any landlord putting somebody into their building. I just believe that it needs to be happen. If you still want to do a credit check at the end, go right ahead. But I believe this part needs to be added, and I believe this is the missing link that all landlords are needing.
And I agree. I totally agree. So how easy is this process? So if like I'm saying, you know what, I'm sitting back as a landlord, I'm thinking I want to include this as part of my due diligence. How does that work?
It's really simple. So what a landlord would do is they come to our site, register. They can decide either they can actually put their application into our system, ask all the questions. And what happens is a tenant will go onto their link, create an account, agree to the terms. They will answer the questions. They will connect to their bank. Nobody gets access to their bank account or their password. And we get a secure 12 months document of their bank statements, and we analyze it all. And that's it. It's done. It could take 5-10 minutes, and it's all done.
Wow. So what does the landlord get at the tail end of that? What does that summary look like?
So what a landlord gets that's really important is we actually get their validated address of where they are, what they accordingly told to the bank. We make sure that the name they entered matches up to the bank account number that is coming up. We tell you the average payroll, the average income. We tell you their debt levels. We tell you if they're in overdraft. We tell you if they have any payday loans. We tell you one of the most important things that nobody's thought about is their closing balance. We can tell you at the beginning of the month on average how much money they have there. And the reason that's important is because that's when the check comes out. So you want to know, oh yeah, they got sufficient funds normally at the beginning of the month. And if they're paying all their bills, we actually show you all the government income, and we strip out all the stuff that doesn't really matter to you guys.
Dude,
so yeah, it's really important.
That's fantastic. I love it. And obviously we're going to have some folks that are tenants listening to this. And I think it'd be a natural question to say, well, like, why are they good? Like, how is the data secured? Like, are they not concerned about privacy and all this information going from their bank to their landlord? Like, how does that balance work?
So that's actually a great question, because everybody asks us that question. So what we do is we actually anonymize the information. So what happens is as soon as we get it, we separate the raw information from that person's, only showing the summary information. And then after 30, 60 days, we actually remove the person's name. So if somebody got in there, you couldn't actually match that name up to that person's contact information.
Interesting. So it's really cool to see this. And I mean, with working from home, even in the real estate industry, being revolutionized with technology, everyone's becoming more and more accepting. It's really interesting to see. I love just being predictive on what the future holds. And I'm curious, obviously you guys have had a lot of time to think about this. Where do you see technology evolving in this space?
That's a great question. I actually believe this industry needs a big technology changes. And I actually believe, after seeing the data and working with all the landlords, in 5 to 10 years, I believe the bank check will become standard for every landlord. If it's us or multiple companies in the future, I believe this will be the standard.
And you know what? I do agree with that. And I think it's something that now that we know about it, we realize we need. it's one of those things until it's been developed, you don't recognize as missing, but with that there, you realize, why would you not do that?
I agree. It's like one day everybody's like, oh, I love going to Blockbuster, and then bam, you go. Everybody all of a sudden switched to Netflix, and you just realize it was easier and better. And that's kind of what we believe with the bank checks. It's just going to be so much easier and faster. And you know what? Even tenants are telling us it's easier and faster. So I mean,
that
it's
was
just a
actually what
win-win for everybody.
I was going to ask, do you not get pushback, like lack of cooperation from tenants saying like, no, like this doesn't work, or like what is the benefit to them to adopt this at such a massive scale?
See, as us as landlords, sometimes we forget. Imagine if you're a tenant, you're applying to 10 places, right? You have to gather information from different people that want different things. So you're doing all this extra work because certain people want different things. With our system, it's all standardized, so you don't have to worry about gathering all this information. Now you don't have 10 landlords calling your employer saying, do you work here? It's all been pre-validated for them. And, you know, they're actually starting to really liken how easy this process is for them. And you will always have a percentage of people that don't want to do it, and that's fine. But we're actually seeing tenants starting to like this better than before. It's crazy.
Interesting. Yeah. And I guess one of the questions would be, well, ultimately you're collecting bank statements. So is it easier for me as a cheapskate to say, you know what, I'm going to collect the last 12-month bank statements and review them myself versus pay to have that report, that check done behind the scenes? Why do you anticipate that the 12-month collecting bank statements is a no-go and this platform is one that works for both sides?
So here's the problem if you wanted to do that. First of all, you have to get the tenant to agree to it. Then the tenant has to go in and blank out all this information in there that they don't want to share with you. That is huge. Then they'll send it back to you. That could take them an hour or two. Then they send it to you. Then you got to sit down and add it all up and figure, okay, yeah, this makes sense. This makes sense. Yeah. Okay. The totals make sense. And that might take you 2 hours, depending if you're a mathematician or not. And then you just imagine doing that 10 times, like, and getting the tenant to do it. It just wouldn't happen. Or you do it through our system and it's all done in 5 minutes and you don't even have to worry about it.
That's what I was going to say too. The speed that you're putting this process, like fully analyzed information, is incredible. And I totally, I mean, we see it in other industries, right? We see the sharing community. People are becoming more and more transparent. Every social media platform you sign up, you might as well be giving them bank statements too. So this is just one more step in creating that transparency, which we've accepted in the real estate industry. People are happy to look at sale data and pictures from listings a couple of years ago. I think it's time that it happens and that this is available to landlords. I really do. I really do. Now more than ever. I mean, have you seen COVID shift things, change the way, the dynamic between landlords and tenants?
I agree. You know, some people would tell me like the older generation wouldn't do this, but because of the COVID, it has forced everybody to start going online, right? It has forced, you know, the older generation that just to start doing online banking and starting to trust that kind of information. And everybody's starting to shift that way. And people are fine with doing this kind of information because it's becoming easier and faster. Right. And I just believe that this is going to be the change of the future. And there's nothing wrong with that.
So let's say I have a Visa, right? Like I know for me, my wife loves collecting points. We have the money, but we're going to use it for the points, right? And a lot of people will be like, wow, that's terrible. But there are a lot of tenants that use credit cards as well. Is that captured in that analysis?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Let's do a little bit of I want to do a bit of a rapid fire. I'm just trying to think of scenarios where tenants go sideways, right? So like, let's think of, like you mentioned pets at the beginning. How does a bank check identify pets? Like, is that part of that or is that separate?
That is actually a great question. What happens is if you say, hey, I don't have a pet, and you actually see them going to PetSmart 50 times, right? You can actually now analyze and say, well, probability you wouldn't be, okay, I went to PetSmart once for a friend. If you go out 50 times, you obviously own a pet, right? I don't know how you know that's not obvious or not, right? So
Right.
that's really what a bank statement does, because it tells you that kind of important information you really need to know.
Okay, so what about smoking? Like, how would you pick up? Because the line item doesn't say cigarettes.
There's like, I'm not the technical expert on this, but there's an actual algorithm built in there looking for you going to a certain, consistently going to a convenience store and buying certain things.
I see.
Right. And that's the probability. It's not going to be 100%, but it'll be a probability of you going there and getting that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then obviously you mentioned earlier that you've got it. How much money is there available at the end of the month, which I think is really clever. I mean, are we concerned with having a large bank balance? Because I would suspect most of them are coming down to zero. Or is that what they have at the end of the month the most important factor you find in that overall balance? Like whether they have 1,000 or 10,000, does it really change that analysis or make that tenant appear better?
Really, what you're trying to understand is, like, are they always in negative? Like, what you're trying to predict is like, oh, this person is always negative $1,000 in a bank.
Yeah.
They're obviously financially going to have a problem when you put them into the place in the future. So you're just trying to see where they sit at the end of the day. So you're just trying to understand their financial behavior so that you're setting them up for success and you're setting yourself up for success. And the other important thing I probably didn't mention, I actually forgot that is the most important thing, is when a tenant answers one of the questions, it says, do you pay rent? We're actually checking their bank, looking for the rent payments. So we can actually validate whether or not they're paying their old landlord the rent.
Which would apply in the last few months when people don't have to, and you can't evict them.
Yes. And you know what? I'll tell you a little neat story that you wouldn't know. In Ontario, when the government actually told everybody not to pay rent, we actually saw that happen in people's bank statements, where they actually stopped paying rent when the government came out and said, don't pay rent.
Ah.
And then they actually went back in and started paying again. It was actually a reaction you could see happening, and they started paying again.
Wow. It's funny because back in university days, I love doing case competitions, and it's really like consulting type of approach. And one of the things they teach you to a successful presentation is your game plan is to paint the picture. And that's really what I'm hearing here is you're making it easier for landlords to paint a picture of the information they're being given, because those things aren't going out the window. They're still there, but validating and verifying what they're saying. And if there is inconsistencies, at least being aware, if you're going to accept them, that you've done so as an informed decision, which I think is really cool. I am so thankful to have you come on the show, man. I guess one of the things that a lot of people be asking is, what does this look like? What's the investment for someone who has a tenant coming in that they want to review, and what programs are available currently through Rentify?
So we're really cheap. It's only $9.99 to run a bank check. It is cheap, easy to do, and we tried to make it reasonable, because you know what? The reason we did that is because I was a small landlord, and really at the end of the day, I always thought about the little guy. I thought of myself being that little guy with a 10-plex, and saying, I wish I had this service at the time, and it's a reasonable price so I can check multiple people. And okay, I've narrowed it down. I know who I want, and it's really simple. And it goes back to what I said at the beginning, where I believe this spot is really missing, this validation, checking all the information that a tenant is providing you and making sure the stories match up exactly to what they're telling you.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And I mean, that at that price point too, that's a third of the cost of running a credit report. If I had an option, knowing that bank checks are available, I would probably lean towards the bank check if I only had $30 to spend. So I think what you guys are doing is fantastic. I totally agree with you that I believe this is going to become a standard in our industry, which is why I wanted you guys to come on the show. I think people are missing out if they're not aware that landlords they have this available. This is a tool in your tool belt. Makes the process easier for tenants, allows you to check information you wouldn't otherwise have. I think it's fantastic. So beyond that, if someone's interested in really partnering with you moving forward, how are they best to find you guys?
Yeah, they can go to our website, which is trustrentify.com. They can we have a demo button if they want to look into it. They can contact us on social media and any of those places, and they can easily get started if they need to. We're here to help you and change your screening tools.
Beautiful. Chad, thank you for taking time to join us today, and look forward to talking to you again in the future.
And thank you for having me.